Hi, and welcome to this Hacktoberfest section for 2024, the last one that we're doing this year. My name is Darin Pope. I am a developer advocate with CloudBees, and we are talking with Mark Waite today about the Jenkins project. Mark, how are you doing?
Doing great, Darin. How are you?
Good. We did not adjust your microphone level. We forgot to do that. Can you do that while we're sort of getting set up here?
So I'd actually checked that it was not being modified, and it's boosted. Is that okay?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay.
Good. So last session for Hacktoberfest 2024, I have a feeling we may be doing some of these outside of Hacktoberfest because we're finding more and more things. So don't be surprised if we show up at random times to talk about random things.
Well, and the broadcast we'll do on Thursday will highlight a number of things that, as the next few months happen, are going to be will need to be done to plugins as they adapt to Spring Security 6 and Jakarta EE9 and Jetty 12.
And Java 17.
And Java 17.
Java right. 21.
There are a number of changes, and guess what? The world is moving forward.
Okay. But in moving forward, we're actually going backwards today. We're going to be talking about security, specifically the Jenkins security scan. We're going to be taking a look at two plugins. I'm going to say it this way, Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and anybody in GenSec can yell at me later. GenSec said this is probably okay for us to take a look at. In fact, I think this is the same thing that we looked at a couple of years ago. So it's a variation of this.
I think there's relatively little risk in us doing this exercise. And so we're going to go ahead and do it live. And if we find some terrible surprise, well, we will have found a terrible surprise.
We'll find a terrible surprise, and then this will just come down automatically right off of YouTube, and you won't be able to see it anymore.
Exactly.
And we'll cut it out. But anyway, so let's take a look at it. So we have two plugins, TestNG plugin and then Priority Sorter. Plugins don't really matter. Key part to this. There is a workflow, a GitHub workflow that you can add, or GitHub action, depending on how you want to say it, that's called the Jenkins Security Scan action.
Right.
And you basically just plop this in. And that's it. Everything magically starts working. I'm saying that sort of tongue-in-cheek, but it's true. That is all that you really have to do. Because if we take a look at it, the real work is happening over in this workflow coming from the Jenkins Infra repository.
Right.
This one does a lot of work. Do we want to take a look at that, or does it matter?
No. Well, we will see the kinds of things that are happening as we look at these scan results.
Yeah.
Because what this is a scan that a static analysis exercise that the Jenkins security team has implemented based on what they've learned about common vulnerabilities in Jenkins components. So this is not some general purpose scan. This is really, they know common things that happen in Jenkins development, and this is trying to safeguard us against those common things that can happen in Jenkins development.
I want to restate something I said a little bit earlier. Plop this file in and just move on. That's mostly true. Feels like Princess Bride. It's mostly true. These very last two lines, you'll notice Java cache is set to Maven, and that's going to be true for 99.9% of all Jenkins plugins, right?
Yeah, right. Today it should be true for 100%.
100%, right.
Right.
But then the second line is Java version, so you could specify which version. Notice that it's commented out right now. If it's commented out, it falls back to Java 17. So, and that's, if you wanted to dig it out and take a look at it for yourself, you could go and take a look at this file and you'll see that it falls back to that. So if you wanted to play with things, those would be the two things you would play with. But that's it. Right? Actually, if we take a look at it, Maven or Gradle as the build caches. So you either got your .m2 or you get your .gradle. So,
right.
But there should not be any plugins using Gradle today.
Yeah, not any. There are a few, but there's not any substantial number. And people watching this video are unlikely to encounter a plugin that is maintained with Gradle. Okay,
so key part here. As a plugin maintainer, you'll drop this file named this way into, I guess the name really doesn't matter a whole lot, but be consistent, into workflows, or .github workflows, and then walk away. And then things
Well,
will start happening, right?
Yes, but the reason we put this into the you need to be a maintainer to do this is because by choosing to do this, you are accepting the responsibility, at least implicitly, to review the results that come from this. And we're going to, these two plugins we're going to review, I accepted this pull request before thinking enough about what it means to accept the responsibility to review security scan results. So that's why we put this in the maintainer section, not in the improve a plugin section. We don't really think that this is a non-maintainer choice to be made, because what the maintainer is doing is accepting responsibility to review the results.
It's one thing to take a look at a PR, even though that's still part of it. It's now this is even more work potentially, which is what we'll see here in just a second. Do we want to just go and take a look at, so by being the maintainer on a repository, you're going to see the security tab. If you're not a maintainer on the repository, you're not going to see the security tab, correct?
So Darin, I'm afraid you just broke up for me. So I lost the last sentence that you had.
Okay. Do you hear me now?
Yes, great.
Okay,
It's
good.
very clear.
All right. Interesting. So, because I've shut off all my backups, so I should
Okay.
not be losing bandwidth. If you are a maintainer, you see the security tab. If you are not a maintainer, you don't see the security tab.
Right.
Okay. And that's what we're going to be taking a look at. So if we go to the security tab, notice there's a 14 there right now. Just ignore that for the moment. We can see here that code scanning, one or more analysis tools are reporting problems. Okay. But we see all these things are enabled except for private vulnerability reporting. That's fine. Don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
So we click on the status page. Now we see this. Code scanning results may be out of date. The last time it was scanned was November of 2022.
Oh, interesting.
2 years ago. So riddle me this. Why has it been 2 years since it ran?
I don't know. That's a good question. So go to actions. I hadn't looked at that part. That's very curious.
Okay. So go to actions.
Yeah, let's see what's causing it not to run. So actions across the top menu.
Oh, this actions. Okay.
Yeah, right. And there should be a Jenkins security scan there.
Okay.
And this says that it ran 19 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why their message says that it ran 2 years ago. If you open that, it's got a green check mark. I don't think we even need to open it. It says that it ran and it didn't have a failure.
Interesting. So
So I can't explain why that page is saying that code scanning is outdated.
unless now okay, let's go back to this for a second, because there have been multiple flavors of the security scan YAML file, right?
That's true, right?
So I'm wondering because if we take a look at the history on it, we can see that it was committed in March of 22. Then in 23, enabled Java cache. Then you did a 21, and then Strange Looking Nerd made a change. Let's look at the change that he made.
Mm-hmm.
He just commented out 21.
Right.
So that doesn't matter. So there's been no material changes to this file in 2 years. So it's curious why it's complaining. But anyway, let's ignore that for a moment. Magic hand wave.
Well,
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Right. Let's continue the exercise, and we'll have to find out later why it's saying that.
Yep. So we can see here on the left nav, we have a code scanning 14, so that matches up, or we can come over here to view alerts. Let's go left because that's easier. And now we see alerts. Mm-hmm. Under the hood, this is using CodeQL.
Right.
But not just generic CodeQL. These are CodeQL rules that the Jenkins security team have curated to throw against anything in Jenkins, correct?
Correct. Right. These are specifically written CodeQL rules for cases that can matter to Jenkins and may not matter to other things. And we see it already on this page. Stapler is a distinctively Jenkins web framework.
Right. Now, if we take a look at these, we're basically down to two here. Missing permission check and missing post require post annotation.
Right.
Okay. Which those are usually fairly innocuous to do, right? Not a big... I dropped out again, didn't I? I heard myself.
You're breaking up again, Darin, and I'm not sure if it's me or you.
No, it's probably me. So hang on just a second. Here, Mark, do a song and dance for just a moment. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Keep going. Can you hear me? Hello. Hang on.
Sorry, audio's breaking up, Darin. We'll be back shortly. Hang in there.
How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you again.
Very, very strange. Okay. Well, anybody watching the replay on this, I apologize. Don't know what's going on.
Bandwidth happens sometimes, yep.
Okay. So missing permission check. What does this mean?
Yeah, well, so I love what the security team's done in the under the show more. It will talk about what's the problem here and why it might be a problem, and it gives some really good advice on how to respond. And I think it's worth us walking through this and talking about it. So let's take a look first at the code that it's flagging. It's saying, hey, do check unstable skips is potentially missing a permission check. So it might be that if this thing is doing something sensitive like returning private information, then somebody who does not have permission to see that information could be getting information that's none of their business. That's not their right to receive, right?
Correct.
So now the question becomes, all right, so do check unstable skips, is that something that's sensitive? And now let's read through it. So I see no indication that it's returning anything private. Darin, we could look at the validate implementation there. So if you click that line, and I think if you click line number 487, or along the top, there's the, that one will take us to the separate page. Okay, so if we now navigate to validate, line 469, okay, so what's it doing? It says parse an integer out of the value greater than 0, should be greater than 0.
Should be between 0 and 100.
Right, and that's certainly not sensitive information. Good, you can go back now with the browser.
Right.
All right, so it's not returning private information. It doesn't have a side effect.
Right.
And so neither of those things are the case. All right, now in the next steps, it says don't panic, and it means it, right? It is not, this is an automated tool telling us that we might think about this. And now we're on step 2, determine whether this finding is a false positive. And so now let's scroll down to, is this a false positive?
Okay.
So the information being returned is not private. Yep. The method does not have side effects. It does not. The method is otherwise protected. No, it's not otherwise protected, but because of items 1 and 2, it's not a cause for concern.
Okay.
Right? So we're not, if you look in what is private information there, it talks about information about the system configuration. Range checking a number between 1 and 100 is not system information. Or information about a job. Nope. Again, range checking an integer provided by the user is not information about the configuration of a job.
Right.
And no side effects either.
Right.
So we can now skip down further and read the instructions. Keep going down. How can I fix the code? Nope, we don't need that. We want the instructions that talk about how do we mark this one. Oh, it's right. It's in the top right-hand corner of this page. There's a thing that says dismiss this alert.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's all we need to do is dismiss alert, and we declare it's a false positive. And you can add the comment here, Mark and Darin reviewed. No private information. No side effects. Yep, and click the dismiss alert button, and we've done it. And that's a relatively common occurrence of, hey, it can't know without much deeper analysis whether or not there are side effects in that code. But we can.
Right. Okay. And if I had to guess, probably all of the missing permission checks.
Don't know. I would
Don't know,
I would want to check, but I think rather than doing that mechanically again, let's do a missing post, required post, just to get some variation here.
Okay. So potential CSRF. Oof. Sure, why not? So let's take a look at this.
Yeah, okay. So cross-site request forgery. One of the danger things here is, and it describes it here in the text, if this thing connects to a user-specified URL, modifies state, or is expensive to run, then we should limit it to only be accessed through a post call from HTTP. So the HTTP GET cannot be used.
Right.
However, the challenge there is, why is it that we would care about not connecting to user-specified URLs? Well, because I've had to fix some problems in the past where I made the mistake in a certain plugin or two that I maintain where I was not checking this, and people could use it to abuse someone else's web server. And we don't want that. We don't want to be a platform or a springboard for other people to abuse things.
Right. I think in this one, though, I think we visited this one time before. I don't know if it was you that added this comment or not. But the post blocks graph rendering in Groovy web page.
Right, which means we can't do post here, and so we should probably just dismiss this. If you click on the three dots on the left-hand side, we can get the view get blame, and we can see who did it, who made that comment. One line up.
Okay, that would be you.
Okay, so that's code formatting. Can we do? Yeah. So given that that's spotless, we'd probably have to go one commit before it, and I'm not sure how to do one commit before it from the UI.
No, but I still think this was you that did it, right?
It could be. In this case, Spotless did the formatting for me, and so when Spotless touched that line, because Spotless touched the line, I'm not sure that I'm the one who. But click the three dots again on line 112. Is there a way to go one further?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm used to my IDE where I can get the convenience of give me one before this.
Right. Okay. Well, regardless,
right.
Nothing we can do about it.
This one is one that we want to dismiss, right? There is no reason for us to do anything other than dismiss this alert. And here, now the question is, all right, I think the answer is we are not going to fix it. Won't fix is a better choice.
Okay.
And don't break the plugin by changing this.
Right. So if we use star post, the graph doesn't render.
Right.
So we need to leave it off.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Dismiss. And one more done.
Okay.
All right. These are probably the bigger ones. So do we want to just take a look at the post, or do we want to move on to a separate plugin, see what the variation is?
Well, let's take one or two more on either missing permission check or required post, because both of those were relatively okay. This one is again an easy one. It's doing a validate.
Validate, so we know what it is.
Right.
So go
So
ahead.
you can just dismiss it.
Okay.
And this may be worth us spending a few minutes here just to see how many of them are this exact same scenario.
Okay.
Because then we get them settled.
Right. Reviewed.
That's
What did
good
we say
enough.
before? Okay.
Oh, reviewed, and there was no private information and no side effects. Yeah, and this is in publisher.java, so same thing. Let's dismiss it. And while we're here, let's look at the others in that class that are in. Okay, so we've got this one is same thing,
Okay.
Yep.
Let's just clean it up while we're here.
right?
This is sort of the key thing, though, is, you've got to go through and do the work.
Right.
So
right.
as soon as you drop that YAML file in, you're signing yourself up for work.
For work. And that's the thing that was sort of the mistake I made when I accepted this pull request originally, not thinking actively about the implicit obligation I was creating for myself to say, yes, I will review these security alerts. And that was just, okay, Mark wasn't thinking. Sometimes it happens.
Right. Here's
Okay, so there's one for publisher. Good. Yep.
Validate.
This one we can dismiss.
And one more. Validate. Okay, I think that's the last validate. So let's see.
Okay.
Make sure there's no more publisher. There is not. Okay, so now we get into actions.
Okay, so let's.
Actually, let's take a look at this method result just to see
Great.
before we.
Okay, so this one's saying, okay, it's already annotated post, but there might be a need for an additional permission check on this one.
Right.
So notice that it says in the comment, test result graph should be visible to any user with read permission. Declaring a check permission would be redundant. So somebody's already thought about this. We
Right.
just need to dismiss the alert.
So I'll copy this
Yeah, exactly.
and go to won't fix and then clean this up.
Mhm.
Okay. And won't fix and dismiss. Okay. No, I guess we're knocking these out. Okay. So all of these are project actions. Okay. So we have a permission check. We'll come back to that. So actually, let's do that permission check. Because these two will probably end up being close to the same.
Yeah, I'm losing your audio again, Darin.
Don't know what's going on. Am I back? Hello, hello?
Okay, seems to be back.
Okay. Weird. Gotta figure out what's going on. Hang on a second. Hold, please. Don't you just love tech? Tech always just works wonderfully, right?
I'm impressed how often it works wonderfully, but yeah, not always.
There we go. Okay, hang on just a second.
Okay.
One more thing to take a look at. Let's see, last hour. That is very curious because everything that's happening right now is happening from my machine upload-wise. So I don't know. Could be the provider. I did not reboot my router today. So it could be that. Did you lose me again?
Yeah, I did. I'm still getting your
Okay.
audio's breaking up.
Weird. All right, here. I'm going to drop my face off. Let's see if that helps.
Okay.
Because
That
let's
has
see.
such a beautiful phrase to it, beautiful sound to it. I'm going to drop my face off.
Let's see here. Hang on just a second. I'll do that. Okay, so you can still hear me though. Maybe? Hello?
So audio is still breaking up. Interesting. Maybe
don't
it's
know.
on my side, Darin. It could be that the recording is fine.
Could be. All right, here. Let's try to do a question, assuming you hear me okay.
Okay, great.
Okay. Oh, good. So I hear clearly. So it could be you.
That
Maybe
may
you've
be
got.
me.
You may be uploading stuff right now.
Right, could be.
Let's see here. Hi, everybody. Is there any additional parameters that can be passed to the job for customizing security scan? Just the two, right? It's just those two parameters.
Right. There isn't any adjustment for more scan rules or adjusting thresholds. Now, there are other things that have thresholds, like, for instance, spot bugs. So spot bugs is another static analysis tool that we use, and we have variable levels that we can use in spot bugs. The typical level, the default I believe we've got is medium, and if you go to high, it means you get an additional set of warnings. You can also add find sec bugs, and we've done sessions that show how to add find sec bugs. So spot bugs has that kind of, but it's not security specific, that's just general code quality.
For this one, I'm going to pass over because what we're focusing on here is Jenkins security scan. I believe there are some CodeQL things, but that's not what we're talking about today.
Right.
And then here, is there a built-in way to implement token-based CSRF?
So
And that's out of scope for today, but
well,
I don't know.
depends what you mean by token based, right? So
Yeah.
CSRF protection is using crumbs right now.
Yeah.
Is that what, if that's what he means by token based, then it's already there.
Right.
And so that's when we could take that up in a separate session sometime, talking about, hey, how does Jenkins? In fact, it's in the, when we read the require post, we will the show more there will talk to us about it.
Okay. So missing permission check, new graph not needed, request response. So the question is, well, it's still permission checks. So it's probably wanting, oh wait, same problem that we had before.
Well, so this is a permission check, not a question for post, right?
Oh, you're right.
This is not post require post. This is asking should we do a permission check, but in general, graphs should be accessible to
Via the
users
read.
with read permissions.
Right.
Therefore, I think this is one we should dismiss.
Okay. As won't fix. And if I had that long one, do I? Yep,
Yeah.
I do.
There we go.
All right. Dismiss that one. And then, let's see. We'll check this one here. This is graph again, so we'll say the same thing.
Right. We think that TestNG reports should be accessible to any user.
Right.
Anyone who can read and can get logged in should be allowed to do it.
Well, shouldn't there be is there an explicit read permission that we should be applying?
I don't think that well, I may have to check separately. I don't know that we have to apply a read permission.
Overall read? Okay.
Right.
All right. Just curious.
Well, and I'll have to double check. It's a good question. Let me make myself a note.
Okay. That is... Okay, now we're down to these. These are the post, require post.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this comes back to
Now, this one really has the comment, says, hey,
this one.
we don't want to block that, so we are not going to fix this.
Right. So this is a won't fix. Blocks rendering agreement page. Period. Anything else we need to add to that?
No.
Okay. And then
Same thing.
Same thing. Well, this is boring.
Well, we may get to the exciting stuff later.
Let's see, what do we have here? Okay, this is CSRF.
And again, the same comment. So,
I think?
well, it says
Oh, it's post. It's post.
missing.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
it's missing post. Require post.
Right. Sorry. That was the first time I actually looked at the full call out there. Okay.
Right.
All right. So now we don't have any more security issues at all in this plugin. None are hidden anywhere. That's what I'm hearing.
We don't have any more security alerts. Right.
Alerts,
I
okay.
use the word alerts in that case because every time I say something about no security issues, the security team reminds me that they don't actually disclose security issues in general to the public, right? So so saying that there are no security issues is a very bold statement.
So
But
this
no
is
alerts.
interesting. Going back to the old, we're talking about, so the actions workflow ran 3 days ago. But the API upload, which was the old way of doing things, right?
Right, which may indicate, okay, right. Okay, what we've got here is, oh, Darin, we should do this live. I think what we want to do is we want to delete the tool.
Okay.
We've got a tool here. That Jenkins security scan is a tool
This
that
one.
just needs to be deleted, right?
Okay.
So view the setup type, and let's see if we can do that deletion live while we're here.
Okay.
Because
That's API upload. Okay.
we've got two different tools running, and one of them is okay, so look at the 3 dots in the top right.
Delete
Delete.
configuration.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, and this says I or somebody else was trying to be diligent and enabled a previous security scan
Right.
using a previous technique, and then we received the pull request to propose the current way of doing Jenkins security scanning, and I didn't bother to remove the old one.
Old one. Okay. Good. That's,
That's cool. You've found the problem. Thank you.
yeah. Glad I could help.
Yeah, thanks. Well, since you're one of the maintainers of this plugin, it's really a good thing. Well done.
That helps. Okay. So, do we go ahead and take a look at, let me look at comments again. Vijay, you are quite welcome. Oh, you are quite welcome as well. Real time, to see us fall flat on our face,
Yeah,
question I mean, that's how we do it.
Well, and please, if anyone doesn't realize that neither Darin nor I are superhuman, right? We are going to make mistakes, and we're going to talk about our mistakes, and we're going to sometimes flinch when we make mistakes. That's okay, right? No problem.
Yep. Okay. So 14 on test and G. On priority sorter, we got 48.
Right.
Okay. So, before we get into it, let's just do this.
Hey, there we go. Okay,
we'll-
so
we'll
this
just go ahead
looks like the same story.
Yep.
Let's get rid of that
Just get rid of it.
old way of doing security scanning. So we'll just use
Now there's only 24. That's
Good.
a quick way to get rid of things, right?
that.
Just
And
delete tools.
That saves us a bunch of work. So why not?
Okay.
I wonder how many of those that we dismissed had already been good find, Darin. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Okay. So this looks like, just at a quick scan, permission checks, posts. That's it.
Okay.
So the same 2 again. There's
Right.
more than that though, right?
I don't remember. I'm used to dealing with these 2 as the predominant ones.
Okay.
And the embarrassing thing is I've had to do real
Fixes.
security fixes
Yeah.
for one or both of these in plugins that are actually very important. So
Right.
so saying, oh, this is not good work, it is in fact important to do this kind of analysis.
Okay. Let's just start at the top.
Okay.
Okay. Potential missing permission check.
Okay, and expand the show more again for me. It is a rigorous thing for me if I read the words. Okay, so private information or side effects. So that's what we're looking for here is,
Private information,
does this use private information or have side effects? Okay,
All right.
good.
So let's look at that.
Right. Okay, so multi-bucket
Sorry.
strategy.
There we go.
All right, so what it's
Symbols.
saying is do update default priority items. So it's taking in a value,
Right.
parsing it into an integer,
Yeah.
okay, and then creating a list box, fill default priority items. Okay, so let's see. In this what the priority sorter plugin does, it's good for people to know what's happening here. Priority sorter allows a Jenkins administrator to define job priorities. They can say, I'm going to define a set of 7 priorities, and when jobs are competing with one another to be scheduled, the priority can be considered in choosing which job to schedule in the available resources. So think of it as I've got a range of numbers, say 1 to 7, 1 to 5, whatever, that I'm using as my buckets for prioritization. And this is saying, so fill the default priority items with this value. So for me, I don't think that the number of buckets that the administrator has configured is sensitive information. You might say it's private, but it's not really a risk to the system at all for the user, for anyone to be told, hey, there are 7 buckets for priorities. That
Right.
just doesn't seem like a threat. So for my take, I would say no private information and no side effect. So let's go back
Right.
and look at it just to be sure that I'm not wrong about the side effect thing.
Well, based on the side effect, because it's default priority, if somebody passes in string garbage, it's going to NFE,
Number format exception and safeguard that way.
and value becomes default at that point. So it doesn't appear to be, unless this goes out of scope, which I don't know if this.
Well, and let's look at internal fill default priorities. It's probably inside this same file, right?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, there it is.
Okay. So all it's doing is adding a list, adding numbers up to the number that were passed.
And since we're using the default value, what is the default priority is what? It is 3. Okay. I was just making sure that it wasn't going to be something like 3,000.
Right, where they might get back a list box that's very, very, very large. Okay.
Right. Now, that doesn't stop somebody from passing in 3,000. So then this opens up to me. It's like, okay, should there be
Well, but
a sane bound on it or not?
But even so, even if they do pass in that large value, all they're going to get back is a large
Yeah.
list box, right?
Yeah, there's-
which isn't fundamentally a threat to the system.
Right. Okay. So you still think this is a won't fix?
I think this is one we can dismiss. Let's go talk about how we should dismiss it. Okay, so we said doesn't return private information,
Right.
and I'm not sure I would claim those as side effects. The creating a list box to return, that's not per se a side effect at all. That's what the thing was intended to do. So my argument would be, so what are the choices again? It's false positive or won't fix. I would think we call it false positive because no private information and no side effect. Now, Darin, it's also okay if you disagree, right? Do you think I'm off base claiming no side effect for something that creates a list of numbers to be returned?
So for this one, I think it's fine that it's a false positive. I think it's a different problem that there's no bounding or sane bounding,
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
But that's not this problem.
right.
That's a different problem that I think we can argue more about.
Okay.
Whether it should be, but that, again, that's not for this.
Right.
For this, the permission check doesn't,
Yeah,
I don't
see.
think matters.
Yeah, your point is that the permission check won't help us with the bounding problem, will it?
No.
All it does is says, no, you don't have permissions to make that request, but ultimately the bounding problem is still there either way. So
Correct.
The alert should be dismissed.
As
Yeah.
a permission check. Yeah.
Got
Just
it.
As written, this
Right.
is fine.
Okay.
Right. Just going through the variations in my head. So let's just take a quick gander at what's all here. Okay. All right, so let's look at this one. Okay, this one I could be legit. So let's skip that one for right now, because that's going to take longer to review, I think, because I'm seeing do update. So if I see do update, to me, that is leaning, that could be a problem.
Okay, all right. Although, good question. So let's continue. Let's try another one then. Fair enough.
Just because that's going to take. I think what we're trying to do is do a speed run through this,
Right.
a reasonable speed run. It's like, okay, what do we really have here,
Right.
to deal with? A do fill. I could.
So this is back to that internal fill. Let's see the whole the full code for this one.
Okay.
Okay, so it says get our strategy. If it's null, fill it in. Otherwise, just fill it.
Right.
So this one, it's returning a list box model
Yeah.
without anything any more sensitive than what we described earlier, which is the number of buckets.
So I think this one is fine as well as a false
Right.
positive.
Exactly.
Okay. This is the fun and excitement you get to have as a Jenkins plugin maintainer.
Well, and you get to think a lot about some of these things and wonder, okay, is this a problem or isn't it?
Yeah. I think let's look at this one too, because this one feels just as a quick fill priority items, get strategy number of priorities.
So that doesn't seem like any risk at all.
Yeah. Okay, false positive. No side effects. And we'll do this one. That's the exact same
Looks
thing.
like the same thing. Yes.
Okay. This feels like the old one.
Right. So this, again, looks like an easy one to quickly look at and see, is it doing what we think it is?
Yeah. It's a variation on the old one.
It's fill priority items based on the value and the number of priorities.
Parameters,
Yeah.
yeah.
So again, there's nothing, I don't see anything sensitive there, anything
No.
private.
It's a number or a string that somebody put in that's going to get dumped to
Right.
and ignored. So,
Uh-huh.
okay. Oh, okay. This could be interesting. Let's see. So here, okay, which one was, this was a missing permission again. Okay. So pattern, but in the end, it's doing nothing but form validations.
Well, so it's doing a compile of the pattern. All right. So if somebody has a
right.
way that they could make pattern compilation extremely expensive, that could be expensive. So this one I would leave open. I think this one's one we leave open and think about more.
Right.
I've got to go learn more about that case, because pattern compilation, I don't know if we generally have to act like that's an expensive operation or not.
Right. I buy that. Okay, let's see here.
So, and just so the audience is aware, pattern in this case is talking about a regular expression.
Right.
Right. And regular expressions in some cases have been used to exercise bugs in code. And so that's why I'm hesitant to go any deeper there. Is regular expressions, I have to go study more.
Right. This one feels like a false positive because it's just filling this. So it's give me a blank,
Okay.
get all the strategies from the sorter. This is the only thing to me that might be questionable because I don't know
and
that.
that's just a list of values. So
Yeah.
okay, and then
they iterate, split it apart, and
yes,
dump it in.
I think it's safe to call this one as a false positive.
Okay. Okay, those two. So it's this one. Let's see. That looks to be. Get the items. Add a new item at the top. And return items. So it's just using the default. So what it's doing is it's putting the default at the top of the list.
Right. Add the default to the very top of the list. Doesn't seem risky to me.
No, not to me either.
Okay.
So we'll do this. Okay. This one. Oh, that feels very, let's see.
Okay. If
Nothing.
it's empty, give an error, parse the integer. If it's less than 0, complain.
Okay.
Nope, no issue. Yeah,
I don't see anything.
That's validating that the value passed in is a number in certain range. Yeah, that's fine.
I think we might need to revisit this one
Oh, okay, and
because I
that's
see pattern jumping in.
right.
So
right.
just-
so this is another got to go study regular expression in the Jenkins context. Yep.
Right. And that's fine, right? I mean,
It
nothing
is.
wrong with that.
This is part of learning it.
I think we already did this one. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we already did that one.
Okay.
Let me see if there's any more of those. Yeah, there's one more here. I'm just trying to do all the permission checks at one
Right.
pass.
That's good.
Because I think we have to think differently when we take a look at the other
Right.
pattern.
Okay. So
Oh, this is
priority
long.
config
And
submit.
there's
So
a save.
Well, right, and so it's interesting. Okay, so this thing, and was this one saying that it's missing the permission check?
Yes.
Okay, all right, and this is priority configure. Wait a sec, really? Okay, so this may be a very real problem. Exactly as you said, line 168 down there is doing a save.
Yeah.
And this, so I want to look a little further here. I'm astonished that there's no permission check here. Okay, so it's
Oh, timeout. Let's look at the master branch
okay.
because it had me on an older line, so
Okay.
but no, it's still the same problem.
It looks like it's still there. So let's stare at it a little more. Maybe I'm just missing something about how it would check permissions. Okay, so it's saying do priority config submit. Okay, job groups, parameters. It reads the parameters from the JSON.
There's only one reference and it's in a test.
Well, let's see that test. So Stapler is calling it.
Yeah.
So the test is doing configuration work, and it constructed. There you see it. It constructs the load
Yeah.
JSON object, so it does something with it.
But the problem is this is in priority configuration. So it's this is a how do I say this correctly? This method lives in not test.
Right. This is a production method. So
It's a production method.
If you scroll up, we would see. I think if we scroll up, we'll see this is the global configuration page.
It
so
is.
let's see it. So it's this.
Right
Yeah,
here.
priority configuration extends global configuration. Now, there may be safeguards around global configuration pages that block access to this. I don't know for sure, but
Right.
it's worth checking because the parent class may defend us already, but I think it needs to be checked. I certainly would not be comfortable dismissing this one.
Yeah. And just taking a look, there are no annotations here other than that check for null. None.
Right.
Which
So-
feels weird to me, but maybe the weirdness is that it's covered in global configuration.
Don't know.
Don't know.
I think that needs more looking, because this one looks, at least to me, like, hey, I certainly don't want a
I don't want to do a save.
I don't want
on
an
a get.
unprivileged user performing a save of priority configuration, right? That
Yeah.
that
Oh,
feels
that's
really
true.
bad.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say this is potential.
Right. It stays open. We don't resolve it. And back to the thing, we don't panic. We just admit that this one stays open.
And we saw the only place it was being called was from a test.
Well, and that's because it's a global configuration page, right? So,
Right.
So the normal user interaction will come through global config. They'll go manage Jenkins
right.
system, and then in that page, that's where this thing will be called.
Right.
But I'm not sure that excludes us from having to do permission checks
Right.
on those kind of things. So
Right.
that needs more investigation.
Okay. Well, actually, here, let's go back to that one more time, because I was thinking post, not permissions. So
okay.
I got, so when I was looking at that, I'm curious now that you said that. I would look for Jenkins dot get. So it's just, that's the only permission that I'm seeing here at all.
Oh, but look, that in fact is, yeah, okay. So this may in fact be the safety check. Check active here is look at the access control lists and see if
Right.
we've got the permission. So it may in fact be that all of the methods on this thing are safeguarded by that. I think we'll need to do more checks separately, because I'm not clear that safeguards everything. But that
Okay.
may be exactly what is doing this permission check, and the CodeQL scanning just doesn't realize that a check active is in fact a valid permission check for global configuration.
Okay. We've got like 7 minutes left. Let's take a look at a couple others here. But I think the key part to this is, number one, you've got to be a maintainer on a
Yes.
repository to see the security tab.
Right?
If somebody puts in a PR to add Jenkins security scan, think long and hard before you accept it.
Right. It's good if you accept it, but
Yeah.
remember that you are taking responsibility for that. It's not just, oh, nice code, I can ignore it from that on.
Correct. And then everything else we've been taking a look at here.
Right.
It's just, this is grab a soda, grab a snack,
Right.
and then
Analyze
start going
it,
through things.
turn on your debugger, run the code in the debugger, watch what happens, those kind of things. The usual development activities.
Yep. So I see here a do update, which to me is going to lean towards, I'm going to want, this is a missing post or require post, right? That's what this is.
Right.
So the question now becomes, is that going to get annotated there? Because that's the bottom. It's like, do we do the outside, the default one? Like, does this get, because to me, is do update, that's public as well. So they would both get posts, right? In theory.
Yeah, I'd have to do. I'll want to check it, because the require post annotation, as we saw in test-ng, sometimes can cause functionality to be lost.
Right.
So
Which is bad.
we want to be careful that we don't lose functionality in the process.
Right. Which means you might have to write new tests.
Right. Exactly. And certainly you'll have to test interactively to see how it behaves.
Yep. This is probably a variation on the theme. Again, I think we're just sort of at the point to where there's enough questions as we've looked at these that it's the post may be legit.
Right. There is that may need a fix.
Right. Okay. But we did knock out a handful.
We did.
So 24 to 16.
Wait a sec. We went from 48 plus to 16. We knocked out more than a handful. Now, half of them were getting rid of old junk. That's good.
Yeah. Okay. Which are probably duplicates of what we see here now.
Right. I hope so.
That should be. Okay. So where do we leave this, Mark? We've gone through all of October, twice a week, except for this week. We'll have another one this week with the release of 2.479.1. Lots of joy there. What are we going to do about all this new stuff? I mean, there's things that I think we've just got to start coming back maybe once or twice a month.
Right. And I
just
think
add things in like this.
we've got to talk about Jakarta EE9, right? We've got to talk about Spring Security 6. We've got to talk about what it means to adapt to stapler response to and stapler request to. Yeah. We've got all those things that we need to do and that plugin maintainers will need to do and want to do over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. So we've got more interesting things we'll be discussing.
Yep. So for everybody that's been here with us live today or even throughout the month, thanks for hanging out with us live. It's a little bit different than what we've done before. But Thursday, we'll be here same time to talk about the new release. And then we get into normal things from that point forward.
Right.
Just back to normal. But I think we'll be coming back talking more about, especially maintaining this.
Absolutely. There are a whole set of topics we need to discuss on the maintaining side.
Okay. So with that, we'll call Hacktoberfest mostly done for us from the Jenkins project. But if you're still putting in PRs to repositories, do it. You have till October 31st. Make sure that if you're not getting your credit, make sure the maintainer is adding the Hacktoberfest tag for you, just in case the repository isn't tagged Hacktoberfest. Tag the PR anyway. Just trust but verify. Let's put it that way. But anyway.
I've got one more topic, Darin, before we close.
Oh, one more. Go right ahead.
Right. Last topic. We should have mentioned it at the start.
Yep.
Jenkins election registration ends in just a few days, 31st of October. If you were a Jenkins contributor, meaning you submitted a pull request or any number of other things prior to September 1st, 2024, you are eligible to vote in the Jenkins elections. Please go to the Jenkins blog, see the page that talks about how to register, click the button Register Now so that you can vote to help us as we set the path and the course for Jenkins for the next year.
So many elections.
Yes, and this one is for the Jenkins project. Please register to vote.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. And if you're going to be around on Thursday, we'll join you. We'll see you then. Thanks, Mark.